All right, everyone, good morning. We're going to get started here. I know it's 10 minutes past the hour, as they say, Miami time, right? But I want to warmly welcome all of you to our workshop today on career technology. This is a continuation of a workshop series that we have offered now since the spring semester of last year. And we will continue to offer. And so if you're just now tuning in, we will do more workshops like this throughout the remainder of the semester. We also have some recordings from prior workshops. So if any of the topics that we're going to talk about today strike an interest in you, please feel free to reach out. My contact information will be at the end of the presentation, and I'd be happy to send you some of those recordings. So before we get started, I'd just like to introduce myself. My name is Logan Saucer. I am the student transfer manager for the STEM Legacy program, which is a Title III grant program at Wolfson campus, whose intent is to support STEM students that are enrolled here at Wolfson. We're really excited to be joined today by Learning Resources, who has put together a really robust spring schedule of Tech Tuesday workshops. So we're excited to kick this off for you all. And participate in this collaboration. When Terry reached out to me, I knew that this would be a great start to the spring semester because this workshop is really just sort of an entry point for you to begin thinking about all of the different ways that technology may intersect with your future career possibilities, right? And maybe something that goes a little bit underrated in terms of what we should be doing now to prepare for the future. So what this workshop aims to do by the end is offer you a framework for yourself to think about what your career goals are, to think about where you are at currently with respect to technology, and to build some goals for yourself that you can use to take you from where you are now to where you need to go for future career success. Okay, so we can go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to introduce you to is the fact that technology is one of many of the NACE career competencies. NACE stands for the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And when I mentioned that we do other workshops in this series, we actually take the time to cover each of these various competencies and the way that we define them on your screen. The goals that you set today as a part of the technology workshop actually are goals that can end up fitting in with a lot of the other career competencies that are a part of the NACE framework, whether that's communication or critical thinking, leadership or professionalism. There's an opportunity for you to kind of chart a path forward, like I mentioned, from getting to where you from where you are now to where you would like to go. All right, so we're going to start with an introduction to the competency of technology through this warm-up activity. So in this workshop, we hope to help you think about your relationship to technology generally and how to build the right technology skills for a job in your field. So I'm going to ask you all to start by thinking about your current level of skill and comfort with the technology you use in and out of school. And be ready to provide some examples. So I know that we still have a few students joining us from the waiting room, but I'm going to go ahead, and we have a pretty small group today. So I'm just going to provide you all a minute or two to think of some of these examples and maybe jot them down on a scratch piece of paper so that you can be ready to share. So we'll give this 1 or 2 minutes in the main session rather than going into the breakout rooms, just so that if any additional students join us, they'll be able to get started right away. So like I said, just 1 or 2 minutes on the clock, and then I'll start asking for some examples from all of you. Okay, so if you're just joining us, it'll be about 1 more minute as we are jotting down some examples. And the prompt is on your screen. We're looking for examples of how technology is being used inside and outside of school. All right, so we've had about 2 minutes go by. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to invite you all to turn your cameras on if you're comfortable so that we can have a conversation about what some of these examples look like for you. Um, so is there anyone who's feeling brave and wants to get us started with a few examples of how they're using technology right now? I can get us started. So obviously, just to do this presentation, I'm on my computer. I'm using Zoom, which is a video conferencing platform. I have slides that were created in Canva, which is a content sharing platform. I'm using a webcam, right? I have my cell phone next to me that I was using to take notes. Um, I'm thinking about all of the things that I use to communicate during the day, right? All of you, or most of you, received an email from me that invited you to this presentation today. Most of you saw a flyer that advertised this presentation today. Um, and so the list goes on, right? I see that on my phone that just as I was speaking to you, I had a work call coming in, right? So this is all technology that's happening around us. Um, Terry, I see you turned your camera on. Would you like to share maybe some examples on your end?
Sure. I definitely can relate when you are like focusing on school related technology because I am, as part of my job here at Miami-Dade College, I also teach and I teach English composition courses. So right away, I thought about, and this is a question that I have for the students on here. How is AI helping students with their writing composition? I know that from my end as a professor, I'm asking students to write because I teach English composition. So I'm asking them to write all the time. And I know that AI is, already out there to help us. So it's definitely something that I need to work on and learn more about. And I'm sure students are kind of in the same boat. So that's what I was thinking.
Absolutely, yes. And I see Shelly, you have your hand up. Go ahead. Oh, okay, I see you put something in the chat. So Shelly says, a good example of when technology was used both in and out of school was during COVID, when all school classes were online. I've also found that as our years progress in school, we begin to rely more and more on technology, and therefore our skills further develop and advance. Technology devices I use for studying are one of the most crucial studying elements for me, right? So definitely, kind of along that same theme that Terry was mentioning of using technology as an aid, right? Whether that's AI in writing, which is, I'm sure, what everyone's intent is when they are accessing those resources, or AI in or other technology devices that are being used to help with studying. So thank you for sharing, Shelley. Um, any other examples that we want to go through before I continue? And we don't have to be so formal. If you just want to unmute and share what you're thinking, that is totally fine too.
I can share some stuff, Logan.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so I think inside of school, I think that mostly we use it like always because like most of our classes are just required like require you to have a laptop and do most of your work there. And outside, literally every time, I feel more for communication and entertainment.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. So hopefully you all are seeing how technology is pretty integral to what you're doing in school right now. And I think what this thought exercise is leading us to is a realization that technology is something that's going to continue to be integral to anything that you're doing, especially in the workforce, right? So, and that's why we're having this conversation today. So I'll go ahead and advance. Um, and some of what you all are touching on is, I'm sure, what you're going to see here in the definition of technology. And again, this definition comes from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And this association uh, basically bridges that gap between institutions of higher education and employers themselves, right? To figure out how we can develop a robust talent pipeline that leads to career placement. So the definition that NACE has put together is to understand and leverage technologies ethically to enhance efficiencies, complete tasks, and accomplish goals. So I think this one is pretty straightforward, but I do think that emphasis can be placed on that term ethically, especially when we're talking about where we're at now in 2024 with technology and the advent of AI, and how widely accessible that now is. So some sample behaviors for technology, again, these are put out by NACE, but I always ask students to think about the sample behaviors this way, that these are not only things that you can expect for yourself or hold yourself to a standard of, but also the behaviors that you may see modeled around you by your peers or by a leadership team in the workplace. And so just to make sure that everyone is focused and engaged, I'll ask you all to popcorn around the room as we go through these sample behaviors. So I'll read the first one and then I'll call on someone to pick up where I'm leaving off. So for the first one, to navigate change and be open to learning new technologies. And then I see the next student on my list is Daham. If you'd like to take the next sample behavior, please. Or you can say pass if you're not able to unmute right now. Okay, we'll go ahead and move to the next student. Juan, are you with us? Can you read the sample behavior?
Use technology to improve efficiency and productivity for their work.
Awesome. Go ahead and call out for another participant, please.
Let me see. Busy? Busy?
This is Professor Fauye, if you're able to unmute.
Okay.
Yep. This is one of our Wolfpack faculty mentors, and actually she's joined today by another of our Wolfpack faculty mentors, Professor Froelich. So we're happy to have both of them in the audience. Professor Fauye, are you able to read the next sample behavior?
Yes. Let's see, that's the third one, correct? Identify, the third, yeah. Identify appropriate technology for completing specific tasks.
All right, thank you. And you can call the next one as well. Call on another.
Doham? Doham PBN?
I think her mic might not be set up, but
Oh, okay.
yeah.
How about, let's see, Cathy Santos? Oh, Cathy Santos went, I think. She started.
Katie hasn't read one yet.
Oh, okay. Let's Katie go.
Yes, go ahead, thanks.
Okay, it's the third one, right?
Fourth one.
Fourth one, thank you. Okay, manage technology to integrate information for relevant, effective, and timely decision making.
All right, perfect. Thank you. And you can call on someone who hasn't gone yet.
Maybe Tere,
Who was that?
Teresita.
I don't think did we hear that name? It came in really low for me.
I'm sorry, Teresita Martinez.
Oh, Teresita. Okay.
Okay, hi. I didn't hear it. Thanks.
Mhm.
The fifth one, quickly adapt to new or unfamiliar technologies.
All right.
And then
Perfect.
for the last one, can we have Juan Villalobos?
Yeah, manipulate information, construct ideas, and use technology to achieve strategic goals.
Beautiful. Thank you. So, like I mentioned, these are behaviors that should be kind of exemplars for you all to think about as you enter the workforce, or as you approach technology, even in what you're doing now in the higher education setting, and also behaviors that can be modeled by your peers or faculty or other forms of leadership in the workplace. So. We're moving on to our core activity for the workshop, which is to think about technology in your STEM field. So we're going to spend a few minutes on this one, but the prompt requires you to do a quick Google search for entry-level jobs in your major area. All right, so you're going to find 2 to 3 different jobs. So you can, click on Indeed or click on LinkedIn and see some job postings, find 2 or 3, where you can find out what technology skills are required and or preferred by that employer. So write down what technology skills you find through that method. All right, the next part of the activity is to do a more general search for emerging technology in blank, right? So depending on what your particular major or discipline is, right, you could type in emerging technology in cybersecurity or emerging technology in nursing. My academic background was atmospheric science, right? So I could type in emerging technology in atmospheric science. So you'll write down a few things that you get by doing that search as well. So hopefully by the end of this exercise, you'll have maybe 4 or 5 technology skills that you're able to glean from this activity, okay? So we'll give this one about 5 minutes because it does take a little bit of time to search through the internet. Don't overthink it, just pull out the first couple of skills that you can identify, and then we'll have a conversation about what that looks like at the broader landscape, okay? So we'll give this one 5 minutes, and I'll try to find some easy listening music to put on for you all while you're going through this search. So we'll come back at about 11:35. All right, everyone. So hopefully you've had enough of a chance now to identify a couple of these technology skills that you found from searching the internet. And so that brings us to part 2 of this core activity. And so normally this is done in groups, but we have a pretty small number of you today. So I think we can just do this as one large group. If you all could spend some time now considering these 2 questions that are on the table. Number 1, were you surprised by any of the tech requirements? And number 2, what's your current experience with the tech that you discovered? And what kind of research might help you begin to develop these tech skills? So I'll give this another couple of minutes for you all to contemplate these questions, what surprised you, what you expected to see. and then what we can do now to start developing some of those tech skills. Okay, so just another couple of minutes to gather your thoughts on what you found, and then we'll be able to have a full conversation. All right, so you've had a few minutes now to collect your thoughts on the technology skills that you had found through your internet search. So I'll ask now of the folks in the room to share out what skills you identified as being requested or required by prospective employers. And then the second part of what emerging technology is relevant to your field, and then your thoughts on that. Were you surprised, and where you feel that you're at currently with some of those skills? So I'll first ask for volunteers. If anyone would like to share.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good afternoon. Nursing use the EMR system, wearable devices, and telemedicine. They need technology skills to share patient and family education information, monitor vital signs, and maintain patient records.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, continue. Go ahead.
So I'm surprised for the software developers because they have to do coding languages, ISO, C++, and so on. What's your current experience with the tech you discussed? But I don't have any experience with the technology.
Okay, so that represents an opportunity for you, right? Okay, awesome. So that's going to feed into what we're about to do next, which is setting some goals. So you can start to think ahead a little bit about that. So thank you for sharing. And yes, I mean, that's the point why we're doing this activity in the first place, because usually students are surprised by what they find, and what's immediately available just by doing a little bit of a Google search off the bat. So thanks again for sharing. Anyone else? Any other volunteers who would like to share? Juan, how about you?
I found, let me see, notes. Most of them require knowledge in Java and in web design
And this is for
applications.
Juan, just so that we're all on the same page. This is for computer science?
Yeah, computer
Okay.
science.
Okay.
Yeah. What I found interesting was the difference between some of the applications. Some said like entry level, but we require 5 years of experience, and like knowledge in Java, a lot of requirements. I don't know, and some of them were like just basic knowledge, and that's it. That's what I found interesting.
Okay. Were you surprised by those requirements, or is it pretty much what you expected?
Yeah. It was like a diverse. Some of them were like high, required a lot of things, others not. So yeah, that's what I found interesting.
All right. And was there any emerging technology for your field?
Yeah, a lot. Like machine learning. Let me see the list that I have here. Machine learning, extended reality, quantum computing, blockchain, computer vision, robotics, a lot.
Okay. And so when it comes to all of that is emerging in computer science, are any of those areas where you would be interested in setting some goals to develop your skills in those technologies?
Yeah, in machine learning. Right now I'm doing a course on that. So
Oh, perfect.
yeah. Okay, so that's my goal.
All right, awesome. Anyone else? We have to get into our goal setting section, but I want to provide that opportunity. Anyone else who's interested in sharing what they came up with from their research? Okay, all right, we'll move on. But hopefully you have your notes there because they directly correlate with the next task for this workshop, which is to do a little bit of self-reflection, right? So you've had an opportunity to think about your performance as it relates to technology. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is to create some goals. For this goal setting, we use the SMART framework. That's an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And so I'm going to start by providing you with an example, and then some ways that you could think about starting your own goal sentence. But you don't have to use these. It's just an opportunity for you to get a kickstart. The main thing is that your goal should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Okay, so for example, my next step for practicing how to adapt to new technologies is to ask my biology professor for what kinds of technology are being used in biology research and labs, and maybe learning more about these this semester, right? So it's a relatively low bar, right? This example is about having a conversation, reaching out to people in your network to find more information, right? And so some other ways that you could start this this goal out for you is to say, well, maybe my next step for figuring out how to leverage technology is blank, right? Or my next step practicing how to adapt to new technologies is blank. And that's for you to think about what's relevant for you and what would be smart for you to set as a goal. Okay, so I'll give this one a couple of minutes as well. And I do want you to go through the practice of writing this down, because that's how you're going to hold yourself accountable to your own goal, right? Everybody will have different goals. There's some that you may feel comfortable sharing. There's some that you may just want to keep to yourself and you don't have to share. But I will ask the group if there are any examples of goals that you've set as a result of doing this workshop that you would like to share with the group, okay? So we'll give this one a couple of minutes and then we'll reconvene to discuss those goals. All right, so you've all had some opportunity now to be thinking about your goals as it relates to technology, things that you can start doing now, right? Taking advantage of the opportunity that you have here at Miami-Dade College before you ever get into the workforce. So what were you able to come up with? Let's start with hearing a few examples from the audience. And like I said, you don't have to raise your hand if you feel comfortable with sharing. You can just go ahead and unmute and share out something that is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. I can start sharing something I know for myself. This is past tense because I began working on it a couple of months ago, but as it relates to technology, I think maybe really unique thing about technology is that it's constantly changing, right? So for me, I teach Earth and Environmental Science here at Wolfson campus in the MDC Live modality. And recently, the college adopted a new platform called Class. And so it's similar to Zoom in some ways, but very different than Zoom in other ways. And so I had set a goal for myself to take a training on Class and learn more about it so that I could offer the Class platform as my MDC Live virtual meeting platform. So I went through the process of signing up for a training with our organizational learning team. I took the training, I got my account set up with Class, and then I began playing around with all of the tools in there, scheduling, and all of the neat features that it offers related to breakout rooms, et cetera, to the point where I was feeling comfortable enough that I could then offer my MDC Live course via the Class platform. And so I took that on over winter break and was able to get everything up and running in time for the spring semester, which was the goal. So in that way, it was specific. I knew what I wanted to do. It was measurable because I knew how my learning would be implemented. I felt that it was achievable because I knew that I would have the time over winter break to get it done. I felt that it was relevant because it's the college's new virtual learning platform, and since I teach classes virtually, then the relevance was inherent, and time bound because I knew that I wanted to get that accomplished by the start of the spring semester so that we could move forward using that platform, right? So, and that's an example, and we're always setting new goals for ourselves when it comes to technology. But I'd like to hear from some of you all what you are able to come up with. Katie, do you have any goals related to technology?
Yes, my mainly goal right now is to learn 3D modeling because I'm in architecture, so it's a job requirement that connects like a lot, as well as with AI. We can use AI to design. So right now my next goal is like either entering a program or just using like MDC resources to help me with it.
Okay, awesome. Good luck with that. And I like how you're able to make that connection between what your goal is and how you can use MDC to get there, right? That's perfect.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's see. Sarah, do you have any goals related to technology?
Yes, I would say it's to learn more coding languages like Java and Python in a way that I'll do that is to focus more on my classes and um, just be able to get more help in the areas that I need help in.
Okay, definitely. Yeah. So leveraging your course as an opportunity, right? To maybe go above and beyond by incorporating a new language into what it takes to complete an assignment, right? And of course, you can always ask your professor for help with that. And I'm sure you know that there's also an NTech lab where you can go and get some support in learning new computer languages as well. So thank you for sharing, Sarah, and best of luck to you with that goal. we're coming up on the end of the hour. So if there isn't anyone else who would like to share, I'll go ahead and advance because there is one more task at hand, which is to take a little survey. And I know most everybody groans when they hear the word survey, but I promise this one is not very intense at all. It's really an opportunity for you to reflect not only on your where you're at right now with technology, and each of those or some of those sample behaviors, I should say, but it also is going to give you a chance to think ahead for some additional competencies that we're going to cover during the spring semester. And we are inviting all of you back to continue that discovery of additional competencies and being able to maybe measure some gains between where you are now with respect to those competencies and where you are after taking a workshop like this. And gaining some more insight on what that competency looks like and how it applies to you. So if you scan this QR code, it's going to bring you to a very brief, less than maybe just a couple of minutes, a less than 5-minute survey. And I'm asking you all to complete that survey before you close out of our meeting today. It's for you and for us, providing very helpful feedback on where you feel that you're at with respect to these competencies, and it helps us tweak these workshops for the future as well. So once you get that scanned, I will also show you my contact information. I mentioned that that would be on the last slide. You can reach out to me to get a recording of today's workshop or any of the other career competency workshops that we've offered so far. My phone number is also there. And there's a QR code that you can use to schedule an appointment with me if you'd like to have more of an exploratory conversation about what those goals may look like for you related to technology or any of the other career competencies, and how that relates to your future transfer and career plans. Like I mentioned, I'm the STEM student transfer manager, and so my primary goal is to work with students to help clarify those goals for future transfer and career success. So you can schedule an appointment with me using that QR code. And if you want, you can take a picture of that contact information, and then the survey is here for you to begin working on as well. And so as you're doing that, I just want to take an opportunity as we wrap up to thank our co-host today, Terry from Learning Resources, who had approached me with this idea of collaborating for Tech Tuesdays, and I'm so glad that she did. Terry, would you like to share any information with the group about the Tech Tuesdays that are to come and how students can get involved and connected with those additional workshops?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the opportunity. You all can find on the college-wide events calendar all the learning resources skill shops that we offer. We have the Tech Tuesday series that Logan has mentioned, but we also have Writing Wednesdays, which is writing support, like some of the basics. Sometimes it could be how to do an APA works cited page, how to do some research, how to organize your writing. So Writing Wednesdays is another series that we offer. And then on Thursdays, we offer Research Thursdays, which are our librarians who are walking you through a variety of different research strategies, and we have a bunch coming up every week this semester. So you can find that on the college-wide events calendar. That's where they're listed. I can share that with Logan. He can share that with all of you. Thanks.
That would be great. Thank you, Terry. Yes, so please take advantage of those additional opportunities through Learning Resources. You may think that you know how to do a bibliography, or you may think you know how to use the library's search platform to identify research articles, but there's always the potential that you learn something new or different that you didn't know before. So I encourage you to continue to log in for those. And I'll be sure to send that information out to you all alongside the additional dates for the remaining career competency workshops that we're going to have for the spring semester. So I'm keeping up on the page that link or QR code, I should say, to the survey. If you all could complete that, I would really appreciate it. And then once you're finished, you can go ahead and log off, and we'll see you next time. And I'll stick around here in case anyone has any questions. So thank you all again, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.